So welcome all to this Zoom meeting, and we're going to start a new series on beliefs. So what are beliefs? Beliefs are basically a concept which is not very clear to a lot of people. Mm, So, so basically, beliefs are certain models by which we work, by which our mind works, and they are supposed to be an energy-saving shortcut in modeling and predicting the environment. We can also say that beliefs are kind of templates where there is you don't have to think very much and you right away come to a conclusion and go forward. This conclusion may be good for you. This conclusion may not be so good for you in the current context, but that is what they do. Obviously, all beliefs are not bad. Some beliefs are actually very much essential to survival. Take, for example, you're going in Amazon forest, and when you go to the forest and you hear a growling sound behind the bushes, you don't go there and think, hey, what's that? I'm not going to believe it until I examine it, and so on and so forth. You turn around and run. And that is what saves your life from a possible bear or a tiger. But think about it in another way. You know the story about Mark Twain and Halley's Comet. Mark Twain was born on 1835. That was the year when Halley's Comet made an appearance in the Earth's sky. So he had a belief that he had come with the Halley's Comet and will go with the Halley's Comet. So when Halley's Comet again appeared almost 70 to 80 years later in 1910, the same day that the Halley's Comet appeared, he had a chest pain and he died the very next day. So that was his belief. So that is how beliefs work to our advantage and sometimes to our detriment. How do the beliefs form? Usually, we are a clean slate when we are born. Then, as we start to grow up, we act on various filters like a neurological filter, a social filter, or an individual filter. So, what is a neurological filter? A neurological filter is a filter where we are dependent on our perceptions. Our perception is dependent on our senses, the five senses. For example, even though we can see light, but we cannot see the whole spectrum of light. We only see visible light. Similarly, sound, we can only hear a certain spectrum of sound. Therefore, we cannot really perceive all of reality as it is there. And we tend to fill in the gaps between our perception with our beliefs. Then there is a social filter, where beliefs are shared by a common group of people, and these could be based on language, moral values, common perceptions. Say, for example, people in India do namaste, people in the US do the hugs, people somewhere else touch your feet when they meet each other, somewhere the people bow. So these are all certain ways of functioning based on certain beliefs. For example, the Navajo tribe has no concept of the future. They just don't understand that there is something like a future. Since they have this belief that there is no future, they live in the present, it will be pointless to talk to them about investments. There are 7.5 million colors, but we know the names of only a few. Another belief could be that everyone in my family is overweight, and therefore I am also going to be overweight. So these are certain things where socially you are conditioned to believe certain things and not to believe certain other things. Then there are personal filters where no two people would perceive the world in the same way, never. The universe could be friendly to some and could be hostile to others. Take, for example, a girl. She is a grown-up girl, but she is extremely afraid of dogs. So even though she sees a dog which is very friendly, a dog which wants to play, she still runs away from him. Why? Because when she was young, she was bitten by a dog, and therefore she made a belief inside herself that all dogs are dangerous creatures. So, how do beliefs create our experience? That is pretty interesting. This belief wheel was suggested by Albert Ellis, and here what happens is that anything happens in your life, you record it inside your mind. And then as life goes on, you play it back. And it then creates a self-fulfilling prophecy. Say, for example, you are uncomfortable talking on to clients on the phone and you are into sales. So you always are reluctant to make cold calls over the phone. You either make the call or you avoid them. But then, whenever you make the call, you are talking from an awkward place of mind. And because you are making it reluctantly and you have this belief that this is not good, you get negative results. You don't get any sales on the phone. And that further reinforces the belief. So this is how the cycle goes on. Beliefs leads to judgments, judgments leads to that kind of actions, and the actions kind of that results. And that further reinforces the belief. So this is how the vicious cycle goes on. And then there is also a very interesting phenomena of belief and manifestation. So you know how often you have seen that you believe in something so strongly, it magically manifests. Like a person has consistently said that I'm going to get this job, and finally sometimes suddenly it just happens. Suppose you decide to buy a car after a lot of thinking, a lot of analysis, and you decide to buy a car of this make and this color. Once you make that decision, suddenly you see that car everywhere. Wherever you go, that car is seen driving around the road by other people. That has happened. So you can manifest your desires by strong beliefs, but the opposite is also true. You can also manifest disasters by negative beliefs. So you have to be very careful about what you are trying to do. So again, let's have a look how do the belief forms. A belief forms when a thought comes into your consciousness. You believe the thought and identify with the thought. Okay, this is my thought. This is what I think. Once you identify the thought, you do not question the thought anymore. It integrates with other supporting beliefs and starts filtering your experience. And then unconsciously, supporting evidence is gathered which ignores evidence to anything to the contrary. Just the example of the girl and the dog. The thought comes into her mind that dogs are hostile. She identifies that, yeah, that's what I think. She identifies it and then says that, okay, I am afraid of dogs. And then even if the dog is friendly, her consciousness, her mind would filter out those friendly experiences. And action is taken in line with the belief. That means she either runs away or shoos him away, and she feels the natural thing to do. Any action outside of the belief always produces discomfort. She is not going to pat the dog with any comfort at all. And this is how the vicious cycle starts. So the point is, if you want to avoid getting into beliefs which are not good for you, which are not useful for you, where do we step in? What do we do? The first thing to do is to check when the thought comes into your consciousness. The first step. That is when you are supposed to have a look at it. And this is how Eckhart Tolle told us that you have to be always watching your thoughts. And as soon as the thoughts come into your consciousness, you have to identify yourself as the awareness of your thoughts and not as the thought itself, not aware, not identify with the thoughts. Once you have that kind of witnessing of the thoughts, awareness of the thoughts, then possibly you may not get attached to the thoughts or identified with the thoughts and not then form a belief. So you would have heard about tunnels, how the tunnels are there. But here this is something which is a reality tunnel. A reality tunnel is something which encompasses your reality, which surrounds which makes out the boundaries of your reality. And this reality tunnel is made up of beliefs. These beliefs are interlocking beliefs. And most of the time, you will find it very difficult to step out of that tunnel. Your life is going to be inside that tunnel. Think about it. And therefore, the first um, dash towards a more freedom-filled life, a more richer life, is to enlarge the confines of the tunnel, break through the walls of the tunnel. How do you do that? By examining and forming beliefs which are um, which are helpful in doing so. We will talk about this much later, but you have to understand this concept that beliefs could be limiting you in no uncertain ways. Think about Roger Bannister and the 4-minute mile. Roger Bannister was the first person to run a mile under 4 minutes in 1954. Till that time, for hundreds of years, tens of years, nobody thought this could be done. But he did it in 1954 on a historical moment. But no sooner had he done that, the next 18 months, at least 12 people broke through that sub 4-minute mile again. So what changed? Did mankind evolve in that 18 months? No. It was just that people who had been mm, functioning under the belief that a sub 4-minute mile was not possible had another belief to examine that this really was a possible thing to do. So, beliefs can work both ways. Beliefs can wreck your life or they can transform your life. They have both the powers, and you have to decide as to what is going to be your belief. Is it going to be helpful or unhelpful? Now, this is Robert Dilt, and he had a fantastic uh, theory of how there are different kinds of beliefs. So we are actually nothing but a bunch of beliefs, our personalities. But these beliefs could be classified in various aspects. The first would be environmental beliefs, then behavior, capability, value, identity, and spiritual. The beliefs on the bottom side of the pyramid are very strong. They almost make up your identity, yourself. And any change in the bottom half of the pyramid will immediately change all the beliefs on the top half of the pyramid. And therefore, the number of beliefs which are environmental are many, but spiritual and identity beliefs are very, very few. So let us examine these beliefs systems, these belief categories in certain more detail. What are environmental beliefs? Environmental beliefs are those beliefs about what is. For example, dogs are dangerous. So and so people or so and so person or so and so group of people cannot be trusted. Keep away from strangers. Don't spend money in the casino. The indigo colored jackets are a horrible color, and so on and so forth. So, environmental beliefs are numerous, but they are the most easiest to change and transform. Then the next set of beliefs below the environmental beliefs in the pyramid are the behavior beliefs. The behavior beliefs are those beliefs which control your reactions, which control your behavior to a certain stimulus. Like, unless I am in control, I am unhappy. I don't know everything about this. Seize the day. Women are smarter than men. There is no use in complaining, it is pointless. I am too good for him, and so on and so forth. So, all these are behavior beliefs. These are also not too difficult to change. Then we have value beliefs of what is important to us. What are the values by which we live by? And these are the values which will finally determine your behavior and your environment, like freedom, honesty, beauty, wealth, truth, and money. Money and wealth is the same. So these are the beliefs which determine your values. Where do you function from? Now, Mahatma, then finally, the second level of beliefs is the capacity beliefs. So Mahatma Gandhi once said that if I have the belief that I can do it, then I shall surely acquire the capacity to do it, even if I may not have it at the beginning. So capacity beliefs are beliefs about what you can do or what you cannot do. And these obviously can be worked upon and changed. And below the capacity beliefs, the pyramid has identity beliefs. These are very, very deep-seated. These are where you have to, whenever you make statements like I am, they signify identity beliefs. I am blank, I am blank. Suppose you say I am loyal, I am wise, I am clever, I am trusting, I am worthy, I am humble. So these are your identity beliefs. Then below those are the spiritual beliefs. Spiritual beliefs are those beliefs where you have beliefs about some things in this universe which are beyond you. I mean, spiritual beliefs could be about God, it could be about oneness, it could be about fate, it could be about death, it could be about the universe, that the universe is perfect and everything happens for a reason, or the universe is hostile, and so on and so forth. So these logical levels of change can now be worked upon by changing different levels of belief. For example, if you want to change the environmental beliefs, they can be changed by changing your community, changing the living place, changing the people whom you mix with, your resources, your culture, and so on. So, if we want to make a change in environmental level, we have to ask, how does my environment affect my goals? And what are my external opportunities or constraints in this kind of environment? What kind of people do I have around me? What are my resources? And how does my working environment make me feel? Then, if you want to change the behavior kind of beliefs, you have to ask the question, what do I need to change in myself? How do you need to act or react in a particular situation? What are my habits? What is the current lifestyle? Do I eat a lot? Do I don't exercise much? Am I a late sleeper? I am a early riser, and so on and so forth. So these are behavior beliefs. And if you want to examine the capability beliefs, you have to ask the question, how do I make the changes? How? You talk about your abilities, your competencies, skills, talents, knowledge, and so on. Values. Why do I make these changes? That is the question we ask. Values drive your behaviors. You define who you are. Why is this important? What is important? And what is right and what is wrong for me? So value beliefs are even deeper. Identity beliefs. Then we ask the question, who am I and do I reflect that in the way that I live? Your sense of self, your sense of core beliefs, what is your mission? How would others describe you? How is my experience and expression of who you are? So these are identity beliefs which are very deep-seated beliefs and they are what describes your whole beingness. And finally, spiritual beliefs. Whom do I serve and for what purpose? What is the higher power? What is my big picture of life? What is my meaning of life? Why I am here? How would I like to be remembered? What greater good of humanity that I believe in? So these are certain beliefs about the universe and something which is beyond you. So these are the 6 levels of inquiry. There are 6 kind of questions where if you were to ask them, you will find those beliefs which are good for you and those beliefs which you want to change. So this is how you can remember this by a mnemonic, which is I cannot do that here. I is for identity, where you can emphasize on the identity level, like who could do this job? What could I do? So you talk about your identity and whether your identity is congruent with what you are trying to achieve. Once you are okay with your identity, you go to the next level by can't. Can't means what keeps me from doing this task? Who told me that I cannot do this task? So this is your beliefs about values. So this is that third level from the bottom. So we are starting from identity, and then the belief level above that is values, and these values are signified by can't. Then we go to the doing part, and the doing part, once you clear this level, these 2 levels, you go to the doing part, and in doing part you check your capabilities, right? Suppose you want to be a scientist, so you start with this: I can I is who I am, what I believe who I am, is it fine to be a scientist? And usually it will be. And then you go to Kant and you find that there are certain beliefs inside you, like your dad said that you are not going to do well in science, you must be in business, and so on and so forth. Or are your values? I mean, if your value is money, obviously science is not good for you. Therefore, once you go through this, then you go to capabilities. Do I have the capabilities? Do I have the skills? Do I have the knowledge? And there you have to change those beliefs and acquire that knowledge. And then you go to that. That means behavior is how you respond, what you do. Even though you have capability, but if you don't do hard work, you're not going to go well. You're not going to do well in science. I mean, the research part of science. Therefore, once you have the capability, you have a PhD, but you still have to have the right behavior, that is to work hard on projects that really matter to you and not procrastinate, not be late for your job, and so on and so forth. And then finally, we examine here, which is the environment. That is this the particular lab that is good for me? Is this the institution? Is this company good for me? And is this project good for me? And so on. So once you remember these 5 words, I can do that here, they will actually filter out different levels of beliefs where you examine those beliefs and then change those beliefs so that the whole thing goes forward smoothly and with fantastic results. So the assignment for next week is that pick out a problem which is there in your life right now. If there's no problem, take any aspect of your life where you are not happy with the results and put that problem through the logical levels of examination, these levels of examination. You put that problem from here to here and write down what you find. And then make a list of beliefs that you find are not allowing you to go towards your natural goal, a belief, a set of beliefs which are causing the enhancement of that problem, the beliefs that you would want to change, make a list of those beliefs. And do this exercise again and again and again and make as many lists as possible. So in our next meeting, we will be talking further about the nature of beliefs. That is most important. We'll be going deeper into the nature of beliefs and how beliefs limit you. How do they actually make your reality? Then we'll be talking about diuretics. We'll be prescribing diuretics for your beliefs which are not good for you. Diuretics are those drugs which cause substances to be excreted from your system. So that is what we'll be trying to find, diuretics for your unhelpful beliefs. We'll be examining how we change beliefs, and maybe not in the next session, but in the sessions after that, we will also approach deeply entrenched emotional beliefs about what to do with them. So those that was the introductory session on beliefs. This introduction is not complete yet. So do join us next week again for a in-depth, more complete examination of beliefs. I hope you have a fantastic week ahead. Take care and bye bye.